Good morning, all of you. We have with us Mr. ASHISH Kumar, who has got the All India 8th rank in this year's civil services exam. So, welcome,
Thank you so much.
ASHISH. So, thank you very much for giving a big hand to him. And he studied sociology optional subject in this institute. We requested him to come and share his experience of having prepared for this exam, and he was kind enough to have agreed for this. He will deliver a small talk for about 45 minutes, sharing his experience of how to prepare at stages, different stages of your preparation. Thereafter, he will take your questions. You can ask your questions relating to your preparation. He will answer them. So, thank you very much. Now, Harish.
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, everyone. So, how's the Josh? अरे लग नहीं रहा यार. चलो, how's the Josh? Yes, I saw you yesterday, right? Maybe in that class. My name is ASHISH Kumar, and I have secured All India rank 8th this year after failing 4 times. This was my 5th attempt. Let me give a brief recap of my journey. I started preparing in 2018 after resigning from a corporate job in Gurgaon. So I did sociology optional coaching from here itself under Dr. Subhash Mohapatra during July to around October 2018. So for till December 2018, around 6 months, I stayed in ORN somewhere near that Mother Dairy. And after that, I left because the atmosphere did not suit me. Like I am staying at my room and studying full day. I did not have any coaching for general studies at that time. So I just left, and since then I've been preparing from my home. And in 2019, when I gave my first attempt, I could clear prelims, but I failed in mains. In the second attempt, I failed in prelims. In the third attempt, again the history repeated. I cleared prelims, but again failed mains. And the fourth attempt, as you can guess, the pattern repeated itself. I failed in prelims itself in fourth attempt. And this was my fifth attempt, so this time I cleared all. A brief summary, if I may give you, like why this many failures? Why again and again prelims, mains? So the journey would be, the mantra would be that at some points of time, I used to neglect, like sometimes I am focusing on prelims, sometimes I'm focusing solely on mains. So that siloed approach, it caused me this loss, and I had to prepare again and again. So my just a little advice to you at this point would be, like whenever you are preparing, focus on both prelims and mains simultaneously. You are studying a topic, complete a topic in full, attempt a mock test, that 100 question mock test for prelims, any coaching, whatever you feel like. The MCQ sectional portion, I emphasize you should attempt that, and you should write a mains test also after completing a topic. You may get whatever marks, does not matter. Marks do not matter at this stage. You just have to attempt the paper. That you are able to write 20 questions, you are able to write them in a manner that suits you, and you are able to write them in a manner that you would yourself want yourself to write. For example, place yourself in the position of the examiner. Like you are an examiner, you are checking an answer script. So you should see whether I am satisfied with my answer or not. I did not do much of the answer writing because my focus was quality over quantity. I did not feel that I should write like 10 marks, 20 marks for mains. I just took one question at a time, and I timed it. For 10 marker, initially I would take 9 minutes. Then I would time it, I would write it, and then I would myself evaluate it, whether I am satisfied with it or not. If I am satisfied with my answer, see, it's not easy for yourself to be satisfied with your answer. You will be highly disappointed initially with your answers, like what have I written? Examiner will not give any marks to it. You should have that disappointment initially. Slowly when you progress, slowly when you start writing, then you will get that confidence that my answers are improving. That improvement should be seen in your answer. So for me, it worked. For me, when I used to write 10 marker or 15 marker, I properly timed it, and I myself evaluated it. One more thing in answer writing which I did, I shared yesterday also, that we follow a top-down approach in answer writing. Like the question is there, suppose any question is there, we read the question, we explain the keywords, and we start writing the answer to it. So that is the usual thing. But for practice, I did another thing, that if a question is there, I have written an answer. So what I would do, I would read the answer first, then I would try to derive the question from that answer. Okay, so now if I am satisfied that I can derive the question from it, although I have myself written that answer, so I would remember the question. But what I would do, I would just take a photograph of that answer only, hiding the question, and send it to someone, and I would ask them like, just try to guess the question. What would have been the question of this answer which I have written? So if they can guess the question to up to like 80%, 90% of the accuracy, then my work is done, because I have derived the answer, I have derived from the question. So that should be the level of your answer. People say that what should be the metric of your answer writing? That should be the metric. Your answer should reflect the question. Whenever an examiner is reading your answer, he might forget the question. But whenever he's going through answer, your answer should reflect that quality, that he gets the idea of question at each and every line. At each and every, after reading a paragraph, he gets the understanding that this was the question. So content may not matter that much. This year there were many questions which required very specific content. Some factual questions were there, like dam failure. Example. Have you seen the papers? Anyone? क्या कर रहे हो यार? पेपर तो देख लिया करो. So when are you appearing? 25. But still you should see papers. So this year there was questions like examples of dam failures in mains, and some examples of anti-competitive activities also. They are asked specifically for those examples. So I did not remember those examples, so naturally I could not write. And if I write wrong, then I would not get any marks. So I did not write, but I made it a case that I write other things well, because I do not know this part, then I have to compensate it with other things. So the same question, the two examples I may not remember, but the whole question I have to attempt in a manner that the examiner understands that this student, he just does not know those two examples. Otherwise he knows. So that understanding you have to give to the examiner. And one more thing regarding prelims, this year I have got 68 in CSAT. So it was just a matter of one question. So one question wrong, out of the race. And that I emphasize because I had got 150 in 2021. So that was, I think that is a passing marks for two students. Two students may pass in that. So from coming down from 150 to 68, I want to emphasize, I want to caution you that please don't take CSAT lightly. CSAT is getting way too tougher over the years. I have come down from 150 to 68. So 68 to 65 is not a big deal for a person to come down, and it would be out of race. So, and my optional was sociology. For sociology, I did classes under Mahapatra sir, as I told. And how many of you are having sociology? Quite a few, not many. So, for sociology, I would take a brief. I would say that my primary source was sir's class notes, because sir teaches very well and he uses those real life examples, anecdotes, incidents. So they are very good to understand, and they are very good in remembering the concept for a long time. You cannot remember this very difficult theories just by reading them out of books. If you have some incident associated with it, if you have some examples, then it becomes easy for you to remember them over a long time, especially in the exam. And if you see, this year's sociology paper was a bit more on the applied side. It was not purely theoretical. So applied, when the questions become applied, then you need to know the application of those theories in real life. You need to bring out examples from people or cases around you. So that helped. But one word of caution in this direction also, don't just rely on the notes, because sir tells a lot of things, and when we are attending classes, we do not know what is important. So we write based on our selective understanding, and we miss out a lot of things. And this happens in other classes also. So for that, you have to go through books. For me, when I wrote mains first time, I got 233 marks in sociology, quite low marks. And in the second time, when I wrote, my marks got reduced. I got 225. So this was a setback for me at that stage. Like my optional is not performing up to this point, and I should change optional and all those things. But then I thought I think it's a case of incremental attempt. If I increase my attempt a little more in this optional only, I may have a good chance. So I did that. what I did, I augmented my resources. For example, for paper one and paper two, first I read IGNU material, which is there available for both the papers. For second paper, IGNU was the only secondary source for me apart from the class notes. For paper one, I had to refer because in paper one my score was very low, around 108 and 104, and this time it is 155. So paper one has improved a lot. So I would share what I did in paper one. So for paper one, I referred to Harlambos, the big one, blue one, big one, not the small one. I read around half of it. I would say I read half of it because I developed an interest in reading that book because it's beautifully written. So when you start reading it, you develop interest, and then I found out that even Harlambos may not work in the exam because you need something more. You need keywords. So those keywords. So I found out that I should read Ritzer. So Ritzer is a very tough book to read. It only goes like 5 pages per hour. So it takes patience, but the utility is very high, way too high. So because there are ready-made definitions in Ritzer, ready-made keywords are there, very beautifully written phrases are there. So I made it a case that I underline them properly. I mark the most important ones out of them, and I revise them again and again so that I remember them in the exam. So I made it a case that I should remember those phrases. So only writing plain answers may not work for me. It might work for some other person depending on the skill of writing. But for me, those phrases mattered. And I remembered all those phrases which I intended to. And I wrote those phrases, those keywords, and they fetched marks, and my score improved from 104 to 155, 51 marks improvement. So that was their brief journey for GS. I think it's a very big topic. So I think we should have an interaction right now that I would answer your questions. I have explained a brief, so I'll take questions.
Any better approach
Just a series of answers. Yes.
any approach to paper this CSAT paper?
CSAT paper. Actually, I might not be authority in CSAT. I have just scored 68 marks, but I would tell you what I did. For the first 4 attempts, I did not take CSAT that seriously because I could score marks. But this time, my marks were coming down from 150 to 88. I had come in 2022, so I knew that CSAT is going to be a problem for me. So what I did for some of the topics like probability, PNC, these are tougher topics, and number system, I refer to YouTube videos only. That some lectures are there. You can just Google and find. So those lectures I referred and I made notes of that. So whole CSAT I had around 3-page notes. Smaller the better, I would say. So around 3-page notes I revised them before the actual exam, and I think by that only I was saved this year because I do not attempt English questions in CSAT because the second phase of paper, the 230 to 430, I think that time is very much heavy for me because the night before the prelims exam I always do not get sleep. And after failing 4 times in the 5th attempt, there was too much anxiety that whether I would clear this time or not. And the morning paper was also a bit tricky this time, especially the pattern and the type of questions asked. So that took a toll that I would not be very active during the second half. So I attempted only the maths portion, not the English portion. So if you attempt English portion, then you would have to look for someone else like this.
More and more we need to focus on comprehension part.
You have to find your strength, whether you are strong in comprehension or logical reasoning or maths part. I was strong in logical reasoning and maths part. English I attempted this time. This time I attempted around three comprehensions, and out of the two are wrong. So 0. Yes. Yes. When I started preparation, I used to make notes out of the Hindu. I referred only the Hindu, but I referred it religiously. Every day I would read the Hindu. How much time are you taking in reading paper? 3 hours. ऐसा क्या आ रहा है पेपर में? Now I know the text and context part takes time, but still 3 hours is way too high. Just try to reduce it to 1.5. You have to find out which editorials are important. Not every editorial is important. You have to filter out. Because others, 3 hours in newspaper is not going to do any better approach. So just try to reduce that time to 1.5 hours and slowly make it under an hour. And regarding notes part, you may take notes because nowadays in newspapers very factual informative things are coming, and they might not be covered up in monthly magazines. So you may take notes. I did take notes in my first and second attempt. Then after that I left taking notes. I did not take notes. That was there. And if you are taking 3 hours in taking newspaper and reading newspaper, then do not do anything apart from that for current affairs like daily compilation, all those things. Otherwise you would be stuck in current affairs. Just read the newspaper and monthly compilations.
Sir, what was your essay strategy?
In essay I have got lower marks, 116. So strategy would be, suppose this is your copy. I did all those things yesterday also in another class. In essay, basically now philosophical essays and sociological essays are gaining prominence. That is there. Topical essays are very less, seldom they are asked. So if a topical essay is asked, then you have to have data about that. You have to have the particular information about that essay. So I was comfortable in philosophical essays because that gives you horizon to think. You can go in any direction. That direction just should be linked to the topic of the essay. So for me, philosophical essays were good. There are various ways to write essay. You have to find out what way suits you best. For example, some people would say that you should start from a quote, then explain the quote like that. Some people would say that you should write an anecdote, a real life anecdote, a fictional story, whatever you prefer, and then you should explain that anecdote and progress from that. What I did, I combined both of them. Well, let's do a new thing. So first I would write a quote. Like this, and very simple quote, maybe Gandhi, Vivekananda, Tagore, very simple quote. I did not write very fancy quotes because I cannot remember. Then I would write, just after the quote I would write anecdote. And for me the utility of real life anecdotes was higher than fictional anecdotes, because fictional anecdote you have to think and you have to come up with the situation. But if you can think of a real life anecdote, if a real life story of some successful person, then it will hit harder. The examiner will definitely come to know that the student has attended to the demand of the essay. For example, there was an essay this year on this talent and ingenuity. I don't remember, the combination of two. So in that essay, I used anecdote of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai because his contribution towards science and similarly towards society was equally matched. So that was actually the demand of that essay. So I wrote some quote, I don't remember which one, but I wrote this Vikram Sarabhai anecdote. And from that I progressed. So like that you will write essays. This is the last page. So now what I would do, I would make it a symmetry like this. Essay is coming. This is the body. I would take this anecdote here, the penultimate thing of the essay, that whatever the fictional or the real life anecdote which I have written, I would draw inspiration from that, and after writing all the body of the essay, I would definitely write a few lines drawing from this, like he did that thing because of this, something to summarize, or some fictional story there, Mohan Sohan is there, so I would summarize that story here, and then one more quote, so that my essay looks symmetrical. Started from a quote, anecdote, then body, then anecdote, then quote. Now, you might think that essay strategy, when I talk about topical essays, you have to have data, but I think for topical essays, your GS syllabus is way too much. Like if you have memorized your syllabus, then these topical essays are not that difficult. You just have to go through the syllabus. Whenever a topic is asked, you just need to remember, okay, GS1, first topic is ancient and medieval history. So for this topic, can I bring something from that portion? Then modern history, can I bring something from that portion? If you progress like that, you would reach security. So there are around 15 dimensions. So your essay will definitely have this many dimensions on that topical essay, and it is more than enough. You just have to address dimensions. This exam is about diversity, the horizontal width, not that much depth, because depth is not required. You just have to go and touch various dimensions, various aspects of a topic. That is there. For philosophical essay, depth is required. So for that, we all are philosophers in our private space. That is there. We all think whenever we are alone. So those thinkings have to be implemented in the paper. Although in a bit flowery manner, you have to write things, but you have to link them to the demand of the essay. Okay, so philosophical essays are a bit easy if you think. You just have to understand exactly what the examiner is asking, and if you can decode that, you will write very good essays. Yes.
So I've completed my optional, but now the problem is arising the revision part. The revision part is giving me some pressure because I'm now managing my GS, but I'm not knowing when to start that revision part. And when I'm starting, there's a lot of pressure because in the class I've understood the concept. While I'm revising, there is something. Everything is actually in a study.
So what's your option?
Philosophy. Philosophy.
Philosophy optional. Yeah, I don't have much idea about that, but I would rate it as a humanities optional. I think for this humanities optional, I think thinkers are there. A lot of thinkers are there, and their sayings are there. So for that, sometimes what I did for GS also, I used to make a lot of mnemonics. Whatever. My mnemonics used to be very some bizarre ones, because the more bizarre your mnemonic is, the easier to remember it is and easier to recall it at the time. So for most of the papers, I used to make those mnemonics to remember, and for optional, you would have to have multiple revisions. There is no substitute to revision in optional. You will have to revise it again and again, and writing is also very important. So you have to have that strong heart to revise again and again, because revision is a thing which we all are afraid of doing. I think if we are provided a new book, we will finish it, but when we are asked to read that book, same book again, नहीं यार कोई दूसरी book दे दो. So I used to do that for even history. I had around 7-8 books. They are there lying somewhere, but then I realized that reading other books is not good. Reading the same book again and again, it benefits more. So then I again switched to Spectrum, for example, for modern history.
How you are devising the things actually? Revision, how are doing it? The revision part.
For optional,
Optional or maybe a GS also.
so I did topical revision, I would say, or chapter wise. For optional, I can say that there is a particular order of chapters in optional, but I made my own order that I am comfortable with. The most interesting chapters I would place first, and the least interesting I would place at the last. So that was my style, so that my interest develops in revising that subject, because revision is very much boring. You have to make it interesting anyway, which suits you. For me, it worked that most interesting chapter I would place at the top, then decrease. So once interest starts developing in revision, then you would definitely reach to the most boring chapter. If you place the most boring chapter at the top or somewhere at the upper portion, then it becomes a bit difficult.
Actually, the people is that you don't go with the option with GS solution. So we need to go through the option together with the GS solution, or you can give some specialty.
You have to find out what works for you. For me, I did what I never did two things in a day. If I am reading GS, if I am reading economy, then I would read economy for 3 days. Once I finish that, engineer by training, so assignment mode is always there in the mind. That even a monthly magazine, I would not do it 10 pages per day. I would do 100 pages in a day. I have to complete it, then only I will get closer. So that same thing applied to others also. If I start polity, then first I will finish polity. Otherwise, this will not be finished, other thing will not be finished. So you have to find out what works for you. You can read both, you can study both things in a day, GS and optional, dividing your time accordingly. You can do one day, alternate day. You can do 3 days in a week. I would read this 3 days in a week. I would prefer that you do 3 days thing, because a subject, if you pick up, then that subject should have some closure in your mind that I have done this subject. And then in 3 days, next 3 days, you take maybe optional, and 7th day you should take rest. I emphasize highly on rest. Yes. Yes. For me, failing in prelims in 4th attempt was a blessing, that I could get one entire year to revisit my strategy. Otherwise, what happens that people get stuck in the cycle. They fail an interview, then prelims comes, they clear prelims, then mains come. They do not get time to improvise. They do not get time to improve their approach. They just keep on revising same things. They keep on writing the same things. So they get stuck. So for me, this last failure was actually a blessing in disguise, and it helped me revise my strategy. I revisited everything, like whatever subject is there, what sources should I choose, whether I should change my sources or should stick with them. So that gave me a breath to analyze. that I will analyze first, then I revisited my strategy. So you have to first come up with a strategy, what sources will you follow, and how many revisions and how many tests you have to write. You have to come up with that. Strategy for what? Strategy after failing in this prelims, right? So it would be a subject-wise strategy, I can say, but it would take a lot of time. You would be get impatient. I think 9:46 is the time o'clock your class gets over. There. So, yes.
Sir, how do you make current affair notes? I mean, how do you compartmentalize them into subtopics or subject-wise, or like GS paper 1 or GS paper 2 wise? How do you categorize them?
Major subject-wise, history, polity, economy, like that. No further subtopics. Only major subject. And try to minimize your current affairs. This for prelims part, are you talking about it or mains?
Both.
So for mains, current affairs would become very big. So then you have to compartmentalize based on the GS headings. And for prelims part, just the subject, economy, polity, history, you can do that. And try to write very little in your current affair notes. Don't make pages. What I used to do for prelims current affair notes, I used to write just one line or half a line, because revisions become easy.
There are some standard sources for some subjects like polity, Lakshmikant, then modern history, spectrum. Then did you directly rely on those books, or did you make short notes by yourself and then revise?
See, you mentioned Lakshmikant and Spectrum. If you try to make notes, then the books will be copied in your notes. That is there. So for those two books, you cannot make notes. Yes, you can. If you think that these are some of the points which are very difficult for me to remember for a long time. So those particular points, maybe 10 pages, you can pick out from that book and write them for revision. For me, that did not work. I never made notes of these two books especially. But in my time, I referred to Polity 5th edition, Lakshmikant 5th edition. So Supreme Court cases are a bit travesty in that book. They are not provided. So this time they were asked in plenty. And so UPSC is going in that direction. So please expect some questions in this prelims also from Supreme Court cases UPSC may ask. For that, I had to refer some other sources because Lakshmikant did not do justice to the subject. I referred to, I think, Shubhra ma'am's notes I found somewhere in the market, so I picked up those, and from that I referred those portions which were not provided. And for other portions, if you ask me, like governance and all those, they are not provided in many books. If the books are there, they are also not good. So for those, I referred to Vision IAS validated material. Thoroughly I referred. Like governance is there, you cannot find it anywhere else. Disaster management is there, security is there. For those topics, I refer to this material. GS3 economy portion, apart from macroeconomic concepts, you have to go find those materials. But if you are doing classes for GS, I don't think you would require anything else. Just focus on those classes. Classes today, I think, are very exhaustive. Because I remember when my friends used to take classes, that time the classes did not cover that much syllabus. But now UPSC itself is going into various directions, so classes are also definitely moving proportionately. So you would have a lot of information in the class, focus on class notes first. If you find something you cannot understand, then you should move to outside. Yes.
Then reading the newspaper, making notes of it, and revising those two classes. In that time, I don't get time to study the standard materials or do self-study, do a thorough analysis of what I have studied and revise it. So I'm just trying to cycle. I have been in this cycle for the past 8 months, and when I revisit those 8 months, I am not able to collect any of the things which I have learned, like any facts I am able to revise. I really have got the understanding.
I got it. When did you start the preparation? Just 8 months or before that? 8 months. And you have been taking classes for both GS and optional. Those are the two classes you are mentioning, right? See, 5 hours of classes and then newspaper, so definitely you won't have energy, you won't have time. You just need to revise and you need to focus on those classes only, I would say. Just don't go outside. Outside, I don't mean outside. Just don't go outside of that space. Just focus on those two classes only. And newspapers, don't make it a case that you are skipping newspapers, that I would read it on the weekend. If you make a pile of newspapers on your table, then the pile would increase. It will never reduce. Let me tell you that. I have done it multiple times.
But I feel in that case, the coaching, for the CS coaching is going to end in December or January next year. Then I don't think they have the time to revise all the standard books. What do you think?
यार एक चीज़ तो तुमको एक्सेप्ट करनी पड़ेगी कि एक साल में प्रिपरेशन कंप्लीट होती नहीं है, टाइम लगता है। आप 4 साल पढ़ के 3 साल पढ़ के अटैम्प्ट दे सकते हो पहला, या मेरी तरह फेल होते होते अटैम्प्ट दे सकते हो। वहाँ से भी सीखते हैं और यहाँ से भी सीखते हैं। तो फर्स्ट गेट दैट थिंग राइट इन योर माइंड। इफ़ यू आर हैविंग अ टारगेट ऑफ 1 year, then you might not achieve that target. You have to have that time scale that maybe 2 years I will have to study. So right now focus on your this class notes, and I think they would cover pretty much everything. But if you get time, whatever else is there that is not taught in the class, that you can refer simultaneously in any book. And please restrict the number of books you read. If you go out in the market, that Photoshop shops are there, photocopy shops are there, they attract. That yellow light is there, those yellow pages, they attract everyone. When I was there here, so what I would do, me and my friend would go to the market and we would just stand outside like this, and we would see what someone else is buying. We would not buy, we would just hear what they are talking about, because we were not having any coaching, we did not know what book is important, so we will just overhear them. Okay, ये कह रहा है ये वाली किताब जरूरी है, then we would discuss कि यार ये तो बहुत मोटी है, ये नहीं पढ़ी जाएगी, बोले चल छोड़नी पड़ता है. So like this we could not cover security, governance and all those things. We just left that, कौन पढ़ेगा ये सब ऐसे लिख देंगे, बस होता नहीं, पढ़ना पड़ता है. ये धीरे धीरे रियलाइज़ हुआ, पर पहले रियलाइज़ होता है तो ज़्यादा बेटर है. बट those shops, they attract your attention. Don't get attracted. Just restrict your sources, that I would follow this monthly magazine for current affairs. Stick to that, because if you change, then you would get diverted. And for mock test also, for prelims, if you follow a test, I would emphasize on sectional tests. Finish your sectional test, because they are a significant knowledge base. Anything else in your question? पर थोड़ा टाइम स्केल बढ़ा के रखना कि पढ़ना पड़ सकता है. हाँ, अगर नहीं लगता है, देखो नहीं लगता है तो वेल एंड गुड है, बहुत अच्छी बात है. बट नहीं, बट वन थिंग यू शुड रियलाइज दैट अटेम्प्ट इज नॉट इक्वल टू ईयर. वन अटेम्प्ट डज नॉट मीन 1 year. There are many years before that attempt. When I started preparation, what I did, I had a paper printed on the front wall, and there are students from yesterday's class, they know it. So I pasted a paper on that. I had written 1 year, 1 digit, no less, no more, like that. So only 1 digit was realized, 1 year was not realized. So that is there, but increase your time horizon, that I might have to study.
Sir,
Yes.
is it okay to rely on monthly magazines rather than newspaper?
I did only that. Daily newspaper, with full religiosity. Each and every news, not each and every news. I think Vajiram gives a daily marking, like this news are important. Right? I followed that. I used to mark those news first, because that gives me an idea. Okay, आज का न्यूज़पेपर में 1.5 घंटा लगने ही वाला है. So वो एक क्लोजर मिल जाता था कि हाँ आज चलो आधा घंटे में पेपर हो जाएगा, कुछ और कर लेंगे. So that gives an idea. वहाँ से थोड़ा सा मेंटल सेट हो जाता है, माइंड सेट हो जाता है कि हाँ आज इतना न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा. फिर मार्क करके देन, बट डोंट रिस्ट्रिक्ट टू दोज सेलेक्टेड न्यूज़ आइटम्स ओनली. यू हैव टू गो थ्रू ऑल द हेडिंग्स. You might find something extra out of the other news items, and you might find something redundant in the marked news items also. You have to leave them. Just don't think that this is marked by the expert, some experts, or this would be important. No, they might not be important. You have to filter out.
Sir,
Yes.
regarding current affairs, after reading newspaper and making notes of it on a daily basis, can you emphasize on how to cumulatively approach towards the end of a month? And how did you actively revise and recall all such huge information before the upcoming exam?
See, I refer to paper daily, and I refer to 1 monthly compilation. That is the thing I have said. So you're asking how to revise that.
Before the upcoming prelims or prelims?
So you are talking about your own notes or magazine? Because magazines are very difficult to revise, I found out.
Own notes.
Notes, I think notes are easy to revise, because you yourself have made them. What I used to do, you have to adopt a style of making notes, underlining, highlighting and revising. So for me this was, suppose you have to make your notes interesting first of all. When earlier attempts I used to make notes, I would just write lines like that. So when you revise them, it becomes very difficult. So when I changed my strategy, what I would do, like this, some topic, and I would make my notes interesting like this or something in that direction. You have to make your notes interesting so that you yourself would be able to study them. Otherwise, you make notes. I made notes of polity, but I did not study them. They are there somewhere lying. So that's a waste. Do not do that. If you make notes, make your notes interesting so that you yourself will find it attentive to study. The second thing, the monthly magazines, current affair notes, especially current affairs note, would be in this format only. You just find some news article, you just mention it. Subject-wise, make notes. For example, economy, polity, and do highlight. Because in your own notes, when you are making notes, you would write a lot of things, but those things would become redundant after a month. You will find out that, okay, I know this thing. Those type of things are there. Suppose this is a monthly magazine and any notes or any class material. What I would do, first I would highlight like this. So suppose 10 lines are there and I find 3 lines are important. So I would highlight like this first. So this is my first level of filtering. I filtered that out of 10 or 20 lines, these 4 lines are important for me, which I do not know, which I might forget, or which are important for the exam. That you will know, because now in this age of information overload, these monthly magazines are increasing in size over the months. Because I remember in 2019, the monthly magazine was of 65 or 70 pages. Now I think it is 130 at least. Last I saw 128 was, 135 was there. So you have to mark like this, whatever your style. I actually bought a box of highlighters. Every time I would have 1 or 2 boxes of highlighters with me. So highlight them. Then in second iteration, what I would do, the revision part you were asking how to do revision. So this was my style of revision. First I would highlight like this. Then I would pick black pen or blue pen, whatever is available on my table. Then I would mark like this. Now I cannot remember this part. And this is important. This part or this part. Just keywords. First whole line associated with that phrase or keyword, data, and then only the keyword in second iteration. Then third iteration would come a different color pen. You have to have that skill. And then I would mark like this. This is 1 star important, this is 2 star important. And this is ultra important for me. Like this. Or like this. Sometimes this will go like this for me, because this is sure I will not remember this thing. So I would highly emphasize that when now these 3 revisions are completed, and I have made it a level based labeling. Now my levels are, this is highly important for me. I have to have a look at this before 2 days before prelims. Otherwise, I will definitely forget this. Some national park is there in news, or some very crucial fact is there. So first I would go to this, then I would go to this, then this, and if some other portion is there like mark like this, then that. If I get time, then that. Or depending on the time, you will have to filter out. If just 1 hour is there to revise a magazine or 2 magazines, then I would only look at these. If 2 hours are there, then this and this. 3 hours are there, this and this. Depending on your time skill, what you realize to study a magazine. So this was revision for current affair magazine, and for all standard notes also, there standard books also, I had this strategy. And I have followed it for over the years, and this has worked for me. So this was the reason I did not and I could not make notes, because my revision was achieved by this.
Sir, he asked you how to signify between the portions of prelims and mains, what is important for prelims and what is important for mains.
Okay, so now I think now that distinction is lost. Whatever may be asked in mains may also be asked in prelims. UPSC is going towards agricultural based question in prelims. So earlier also they were asked, but now in prelims also they are asked. So that distinction is lost. You have to focus on a subject in a holistic manner, that this is a subject. There are some various topics which you might specifically leave for mains. For example, governance, disaster. They are there, that you should classify that they are not important for prelims. But otherwise, if you are reading economy, polity, then everything is important for prelims as well as mains. You should not classify.
So could you please tell us which is the best time for answer writing?
Best
Time for answer writing.
answer writing depends on when you are comfortable and when did you start your preparation.
Before
just 1 month. Don't write for next 3-4 months at least.
4 months.
Yeah.
Next 4 months.
Please don't write, because what will happen, you know very little at this stage. I assume that if you start writing, then you would only focus on writing part.
Because
For
I don't have content that much.
yeah, you have to build content. I always focus on building content, because the presentation part you have to learn. If you know the presentation part, then the key would be content. But if you miss on the content first, then only presentation, what would you present? You need to have content for that. So don't rush into answer writing at this stage. First have a holistic idea. At least let some subjects be completed. The teachers would give some questions to write also in classes. Try to write those questions only. And regarding PYQ also, question would come at this stage. So what you should do with PYQs, according to me, that if you are reading a subject, for example polity, then just don't rush into PYQs. What happens if you rush directly into PYQs, then your attention gets fixated on those questions only. Suppose you get a question from governor and PYQs. So if you are reading the chapter of governor, then you would only read that part. You would tend to overlook on the other aspect, but you don't know that other aspect may also be asked this year. So first complete the syllabus, then look at the PYQs, and then see how much portion of the PYQs are you able to attend from that book or from your subject learning. And before that also, I can emphasize that for prelims portion, you finish a subject, then you first attempt a sectional test, because the gaps in your book will be fulfilled by those sectional tests. So first complete book, sectional test, then look at prelims. If you are able to do good in prelims, if you are able to do in those two things, then if you go to PYQs, then definitely you would do good in those PYQs. Then you would get confidence. Don't go other way, like pehle PYQ, then subject, and then sectional test. Go this way. Yes.
My question is how to objectify the part that much for prelims while revising the one. In the class, while we are studying, we taking the class attentively, and the class is just like कि समझ आ गया, क्लास के बाद घर जाके रिवीजन करना है, एक महीने बाद तीसरा रिवीजन करना, दूसरा रिवीजन करना है. तो उस टाइम पे कैसे डिवाइड करती दिस पार्ट फॉर फिल्म्स, दिस पार्ट फॉर मेंस?
तुम्हें डिवाइड करना ही क्यों है? मैं तो ये पूछ रहा हूँ, पूरा रिवाइज करते चलो ना, पूरा तो
हाउ टू ऑब्जेक्टिफाई that's a factual part, and how to objectify that this is the for just factual information keep in mind.
तो अब फैक्ट मेंस में भी आने लगे हैं ना. फैक्ट्स आर नॉट ओनली इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर प्रीलिम्स, फैक्ट्स मेंस में भी आने लगे हैं.
डिवाइड करें कि ये सिर्फ प्रीलिम्स के लिए है, इसमें से हम 150-200 वर्ड्स निकाल के मेंस के लिए सकते हैं.
यार कितना टाइम हुआ तुमको पढ़ते हुए? 8 मंथ्स ना. तो थोड़ा और टाइम निकलना, तो ये अंडरस्टैंडिंग तुमको खुद आ जाएगी कि जो भी हम कंटेंट प्रिपेयर करते हैं, जो भी टॉपिक पढ़ते हैं, उसमें से अपने आप मेंस का कंटेंट बन जाता है. ऐसा नहीं होता कि हमें कोई राइटअप पढ़ना है फिर उसमें से निकाल के वो 150 वर्ड्स लिखने हैं. ऐसा नहीं होता है. जस्ट हैव दैट इन्फॉर्मेशन. You have to arrange that information, because when you are studying, you have to have interlinkages between papers. You cannot say that I am writing a polity answer, then I would write only polity aspect of it. You may have to go to the economy aspect also in your polity answer. So अब तुम बोलोगे कि नहीं है, मेरा तो वही राइटअप था पॉलिटी का, मैं इसमें से 150 मार्क्स का कंसेंट में याद कर लेता हूँ, लेकिन उससे काम चलेगा नहीं. सो ऐसा मत करो कि सिर्फ प्रीलिम्स और मेंस को मैं क्लासीफाई कर दूँ. ऐसे नहीं. रिवाइज करो, पूरा रिवाइज कर लो. बट हाँ, there would be some things where you would specifically know कि यार ये prelims के लिए ज़रूरी नहीं है, तो वो तुम्हें अपने नोट से खुद पता चल जाएगी, तो उसको skip कर दो. बहुत सारी चीज़ें होती हैं. एग्जाम्पल तो याद नहीं आ रहा, बट they are there. Next.
Sir, apart from the subject, I'm just curious if you can share how your daily routine during preparation would be, and how much time would you allocate for current affairs, reading the newspaper, answering the questions, and actually reading the concepts as such.
My journey is a bit long, so I would tell only the significant part of it. My day would start with newspaper, invariably. I would wait for the newspaper to come 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and I would start with newspaper, and newspaper would take around 1.5 hours. Then I would have a shower, breakfast. Then if I feel like studying, I would sit for study, and I would never sit for more than 2 or 3 hours in a sitting. And I made it a case that if I am sitting on my chair for 6 hours, then for those 6 hours I would study. And 6 to 7 hours was my ultimate, that peak point. If I study below that, or if I study more than that, the efficiency and performance would deflect. I had that peak point. You have to find out peak point, like optimal performance. My optimal performance is in 8 hours, 10 hours, depending on your caliber. it depends on your mental capacity. So for me, it was 6 to 7 hours. If I cross 7 hours, no use. Next day, I would be studying only for 3 hours, then that would be a loss. So find that you have to study for a long time, 1 year, 1.5 year, 2 year, 3 years, whatever is there. So don't exhaust your mind in a day or two or in a week or month. You have to be a marathon player. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You have to study for a long time. So don't just go by 10 hours, 12 hours. If you are comfortable, if your mind allows, then definitely you should. But what I would advise that study for 8 hours, but make it a case that you study for 8 hours regularly and take breaks, daily break, 6 hour breaks, and then weekly breaks. For me, breaks were very important. And anything else in your question? Yeah, but one more thing. I did not have any specific time that I would study from this time to this time. No schedule, no routine, nothing. Whenever I feel like studying, I would study. When I don't feel like, I'll just go out and roam. Yes, roaming is very important. You just get to see different people, and you need to get out of that space. You need to get out of that room and see other people also. Yes.
How do you handle your distractions?
What do you call a distraction? Distractions are.
Like family guests or
I think this is a very big distraction, no?
yeah, mobile phone.
Yes. So when you are on a table, just keep your mobile phone away somewhere in silent mode, switched off mode. Actually, I did not, but I advise you to. Because you cannot. कौन बोल रहा है? Yeah.
What would you like to suggest about interviews, the preparation and the strategy about it?
Interview portion, yeah, that's a very long time for that. But mainly डाफ पे ही फोकस करना होता है. जो डाफ में भरा है तुमने, उसको ही अच्छे से थॉरली प्रिपेयर करना होता है. और मॉक्स, number of mocks if you are asking, then you have to find out like whether you are done in 3 mocks or 15 mocks. People, this year I found out some people have given 15-20 mocks also. But again, that optimal point is there. For me, it was like 2-3 mocks. So I did not give many mocks, 3-4 mocks maximum. I went with the flow that some people advised me, नहीं और दे दो यार, इतने से काम नहीं चलेगा, चलो दे देते. But that did not work quite good.
Sir, regarding government schemes, do we have to follow the same approach or just memorize the important government schemes of the particular financial year?
Same of what? Same approach of what?
Same of the requirement and disaster management.
Yes, government schemes also you should follow that. You should have the name of the scheme in your mind first, and then maybe 1 or 2 details. But just don't do that when you are studying a government scheme. You are just मैं study ही इतना करूँगा. So नहीं होगा. First you have to study the whole thing. You have to mark the important ones. But when you revise, focus on this thing. You have to know that actually nowadays the names of schemes are very much self-explanatory. You just remember, if you remember the name, you remember what it is about. You just need to remember the sharing pattern. I don't think remembering much details would be easy. You would forget.
Yeah, like Vajiram is given as the whole yellow book for the government schemes.
Whole
Yellow book.
yellow book, अच्छा full book of government schemes. ये मैं तो नहीं पता था. Once go through that. But एक basic idea mind में होना चाहिए कि है क्या scheme. And there are very important schemes which if some scheme is important, it will be there in the newspaper. Focus on the newspaper schemes, that whatever scheme is provided in newspaper, some coverage is there, then definitely that becomes important for exam. Otherwise, a lot of schemes are announced every day. They would be there in PIB or some other knowledge base. So you cannot just go through and read every scheme. Yes.
So actually this is the problem understanding the newspaper. So what I do, I just listen to YouTube application and make the notes. So that it is necessary to purchase the newspaper and read myself, or we can go to the videos and
You should purchase. Well, I'm not endorsing newspaper. I'm just saying that if you have a hard copy in your hand, newspaper's hard copy, I'm a fan of hard copy for any material. I had a printer, whatever I found PDF, I just print. That's why I can use this thing. So for newspaper specifically, purchase a hard copy, because then only you get the feel of newspaper. And do read newspaper. Just don't rely on those explanations. If you cannot get a topic, if you cannot understand like what it is going to say, what it is saying, and it's very difficult for me to understand, especially the economy editorials. They are written with data and explanations you cannot understand. For them, you can go to some explanation, but just get that explanation right. But don't do that for everything. And don't just rely on those videos that I would only watch the video and get an understanding. No, you will forget.
Doctor preparation start here.
हाँ.
Want to know the preparation of the first year and the last year. How do we start?
जब मैंने प्रिपरेशन स्टार्ट की थी तो पहले तो मैंने NCERT उठा ली थी. किसी ने मेरे को बोला कि एनसीईआरटी से स्टार्ट करो, तो मैंने 6th 7th 8th की एनसीईआरटी उठा ली, वो पढ़ता था. In 1 month I finished them, and then I focused for first year I did a mistake that I focused entirely on prelims. I just bought these standard books, bought those mocks, sectional mocks, and I attempted all those mocks. I used to get 120 plus in the first year itself. So I was confident that I would clear prelims at least this year, and only prelims I cleared. So you have to focus on mains also. In my first attempt, I would say the problem was this only, that I focused in silos. So when I started, I ignored ethics part in that attempt. I did not read ethics, and other GS portions which are there, non-prelims portion, that I ignored. So what's your question actually? The change is, if you are looking for change from first to last year, the change would be that finding out the exact book, finding out that exact page you need to read, you need to revise. Because when I started, there were a lot of books. For history, I would have, I think, 7-8 books. They are there. For economy, I would have 5-6 books. I have read all of them, but they are somewhere lying around. But in my last attempt, I followed only one source for everything. One source for this, one source for that, and I stuck to that. So did I answer your question? I don't think I did.
I got your answer. Last one I also quit my job and I gave it.
एनसीईआरटीज हो गई तुम्हारी 6th 7th 8th एटलीस्ट, 11th 12th तो सिलेबस ही है. यार सुना ही नहीं दे रहा है. 11th and 12th you have completed. Geography once and economy करना है. So यार, my suggestion to you would be that whatever book you choose it after proper research, that I would read this book and stick to that book. That is a mistake I did. I purchased a lot of books. Don't do that. You are on that stage I was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So don't do that mistake, and just find out the best book available for according to your caliber. For me, for history portion, I first studied modern history of Bipin Chandra, because I was skeptical that I would not get spectrum in the first reading. First, I finished the history NCRTs, then I read the Bipin Chandra book, because I had a habit that I should get a story built up in my mind. For modern history, the story is interesting. That story in chronological manner should be built in your mind. Then Bipin Chandra did this beautifully. But after that, I found out that from Bipin Chandra, I cannot extract information useful for prelims. Then I switched to spectrum, and then I stuck to spectrum. But I would not say that Bipin Chandra became redundant, because it had built a story in my mind. And on that story, I sprinkled those facts. So you have to find out what works for you.
How can we improve our confidence in a day, sir?
In
a day, how can we improve our confidence?
Oh, you cannot improve your confidence in a day. I would say, I think you want to ask that if you feel low, if you are feeling disappointed, something like that, you have to find that motivation. You have to get that motivation right. Like motivation may be all of us, I think some of us are leaving their jobs, some of us are leaving their colleges, and we all have that motivation to crack the civil services, and have that motivation straight and repeat it to yourself every day. That actually I had left my job, so there was a reason why I left that job and why I came for civil services. So that motivation should be very clear, crisp and repeatable. ऐसा नहीं है कि आज मेरा मोटिवेशन ये था, कल मेरा मोटिवेशन ये होगा, आज मैं वो ये ना कि ठुकरा के दिल मेरा का आज तो मैं इससे आ गया वो बन के अब now I want to serve the nation. No, you have to get that motivation straight at the starting of your preparation, because if that motivation is very concrete, then you would find the strength in your times when you are feeling low. There would be times when you would feel low. There would be times when you feel like आज पढ़ने का मन नहीं कर रहा, मत पढ़ो. सिंपल सी बात, जबरदस्ती नहीं करनी है. बट ऐसा भी नहीं है कि मेरा 3 दिन पढ़ने का मन नहीं कर रहा, मैं घूम रहा हूँ, नहीं, उतना भी नहीं करना है. टेक अ ब्रेक, बट गेट दैट मोटिवेशन इन योर माइंड. एंड इफ़ यू एवर फील लाइक कि नहीं हो रहा है, क्या करूँ, सो ट्राई टू इमेजिन अ डे यू कम हियर. Just imagine this day that you are coming here and you are actually I always imagined myself here when I used to sit there. I used to imagine that कि वहाँ जाऊँगा तो कैसा लगेगा. So that will definitely give you cheers. ये जब पढ़ने का मन नहीं कर रहा है तो सोचो यार वहाँ जाके मुझे टॉक देनी है, मैं क्या बोलूँगा. तो वो वहाँ से अपना पढ़ना आ जाएगा. You have to imagine, you have to manifest. In technical words we call it manifest. आजकल बहुत चल रहा है YouTube पे, manifest that. bring a glass of water and drink that water, manifest that. Lot of things are there. I don't know whether it works or not, but manifestation you have to do. You have to imagine yourself there. If you can imagine yourself there, you will get the strength to work for it. Get that motivation. And don't have a very cheap motivation. Let me be very clear. Yes, yes. कल तुम्हारे सवाल पूरे नहीं हुए? बोलो. I already mentioned that I did not study more than 6 to 7 hours, so definitely there would be something I would do in rest of the time. Actually, I would say I was isolated, but not completely isolated. I stayed away from Delhi. So in that zone, I did not have much interaction with the people here. I would just ask my friend. I had a friend who is staying here. So मैं उससे बस यही पूछता था क्या चल रहा है मार्केट में. I would just ask him क्या चल रहा है मार्केट में. तो he would tell me like ये चल रहा है यहाँ पे. ये नए नए मार्केट में चीज़ें आ गई हैं, बच्चे ये बोल रहे हैं, ये प्रीलिम्स में ये आने वाला है. So I would just contact him. He would tell me the status. Otherwise, I was a bit isolated. I did not focus. I did not have many friends in that preparation. You can. It's not like that. You should do that. Whatever suits you, you should do that.
Sir, in this years of your struggle, for example, sometimes if you feel low, then do you ever regret like that I have left my job and all? Because I left my orthopedic residency field. My own friends are pursuing right now specialty and all. So, do you maintain contact with all of them?
Which field? I just could not get.
After MBBS.
So you are a doctor, right? Yeah, it's very hard, I think.
So, because it feels sometimes that my own friends are moving ahead.
Yes. I think I am competent enough to answer that question. When I left my job, my friends were already progressing in their career. Someone had went for MBA, someone had went abroad for further studies or some job. So now, after 5 years, when I talked to them, I kept in touch with some of them. So I find out like how much are you earning? So like CR 80, 90, 70. So I was like self doubt आने लगता है कि यार क्या कर रहा हूँ मैं. मेरे दोस्त वहाँ इतना पैसा कमा रहे हैं, इतनी अच्छी नौकरी कर रहे हैं, मैं यहाँ पे एकदम बेरोजगार बैठा हूँ. That's the word I used to use for myself. मैं बेरोजगार बैठा हूँ. I'm not earning even a penny. So that thing will come. Self doubt will come, and some self doubt is good because it will give you strength to move forward. You have to imagine again that if I clear this exam, will I be better than them? In my own perspective, I'm not saying their perspective. In my own perspective, will I be more happy? Will I be satisfied? If you get the answer, yes, I would be satisfied if I cleared this exam, that I left my job. I am not earning as much as my friends, but I would be satisfied. If you can derive that satisfaction from that imagination, then I think you would get that motivation to rise up. You would definitely feel low, but if you can just cut out the contacts, if you can. Only the important ones maintain. Otherwise, if you get too much involved with those friends, then definitely every day you will get self-doubt. And everyday self-doubt is not good. Self-confidence is good. Next. हो गया अपने wind up. Okay, so thank you so much. I wish you all the best. पढ़ना पड़ेगा, मैराथन है, दौड़ना पड़ेगा, लेकिन धीरे धीरे दौड़ना है, जल्दी नहीं करनी है.